The Arizona sun was merciless that August morning, turning the abandoned trading post into an oven of wood and adobe. 14-year-old Lily Morgan stood in the doorway, her thin cotton dress already damp with sweat, surveying the endless expanse of desert that had become her entire world. Saguaro cacti stood like silent sentinels across the landscape, their arms raised to a sky so blue it almost hurt to look at. Lily had been alone for 3 months now, ever since the fever had taken both her parents within a week of each other. The trading post had been their dream, a place where they'd hoped to build a life-serving travelers moving through the Arizona territory. That dream had died with them, leaving Lily with a crumbling building, dwindling supplies, and a loneliness so profound it felt like a physical weight on her chest. She'd learned to survive through necessity and stubbornness. Every morning she checked her water barrels, rationed her remaining food supplies, and tended the small garden her mother had started behind the building. Travelers still occasionally stopped, though less frequently now that word had spread the proprietors were gone. Lily would trade what little she had, always asking for news of family or anyone who might take in an orphan girl. So far no one had offered. The desert had taught her harsh lessons quickly. She'd learned which plants held water, which snakes were deadly, and how to read the sky for signs of the rare rainstorms that could mean the difference between survival and slow death by thirst. She'd grown thin and sun-darkened, her blonde hair bleached almost white, her hands calloused beyond her years. At 14, she looked like a small ghost haunting the bones of her parents' failed dream. This morning something felt different. The air carried a strange tension, and in the distance, Lily thought she'd heard gunshots around dawn, though sound traveled strangely in the desert, and she couldn't be sure. She stood in the doorway a moment longer, that inexplicable feeling of something coming making her skin prickle despite the heat. Then she shook her head at her own imagination and turned back inside to begin another day of simple survival. Lily's water barrel was running dangerously low, which meant she needed to make the half-mile trek to the small spring hidden in a rocky outcrop her father had shown her. She hated leaving the trading post, but water was life in the desert, and without it she'd be dead within days. She grabbed 2 empty clay jugs, wrapped a cloth around her head for sun protection, and set out across the burning sand. The spring was tucked into a natural formation of red rocks, a miracle of water seeping from some underground source that had probably saved countless lives over the centuries. As Lily approached, she noticed something that made her stop cold. Vultures circled overhead, their lazy spirals a dark omen against the brilliant sky. Her heart began pounding as she crept closer, every instinct screaming danger. Then she saw him. A young man, perhaps 19 or 20, lay crumpled near the base of the rocks about 30 yards from the spring. His dark skin and long black hair, the buckskin leggings and the scattered remnants of traditional Apache clothing told her immediately what he was. But it was the blood that held her attention. So much blood staining the sand dark, dried on his chest and side where terrible wounds gaped. Lily's first instinct was to run. Every settler in Arizona territory lived with fear of Apache raids, and the conflicts between the army and various Apache bands had created an atmosphere of mutual terror and hatred. Her own parents had warned her constantly about the dangers, but as she stood frozen, watching the vultures circle lower, something deeper than fear rose up inside her. This wasn't a raid or a warrior on the attack. This was a dying person, alone and abandoned. She approached slowly, cautiously, half expecting him to leap up despite his obvious injuries. But he didn't move. His chest rose and fell so slightly she almost missed it. He was still alive, barely. Lily knelt beside him, her shadow falling across his face. His eyes flickered open for just a moment, glazed with pain and fever, seeing her without comprehension before closing again. In that brief instant, Lily made a decision that would change both their lives forever. She couldn't leave him here to die, not when she had the power to at least try to help. She'd lost too much already to death. She wouldn't willingly let it claim someone else if she could prevent it. Getting the wounded warrior back to the trading post was the hardest physical task Lily had ever attempted. He was unconscious and dead weight, probably outweighing her by 60 or 70 pounds, despite being lean from a life of desert survival. She couldn't carry him, but she could drag him, inch by agonizing inch across the burning sand. It took her nearly 3 hours. She would pull him a few feet, rest to catch her breath and drink water, then pull again. The sun climbed higher, turning the world into a furnace. Lily's arms screamed with pain. Her back felt like it might break, and several times she nearly gave up, wondering if she was insane for even trying. But each time she was ready to quit, she'd look at his face, so young despite the hardness life had etched there, and find the strength to continue. When she finally got him to the trading post and dragged him inside onto the wooden floor, Lily collapsed beside him, gasping for breath, every muscle trembling with exhaustion. She'd done it. But now came the harder part, keeping him alive. She had limited medical knowledge, just what her mother had taught her about treating cuts and fevers. These wounds were far beyond anything she'd dealt with before. She fetched water and clean cloths, then carefully began cleaning the wounds. There were 3, a deep gash across his ribs, what looked like a bullet graze on his shoulder, and a knife wound in his side that was the most serious. The bleeding had mostly stopped, which was good, but infection was almost certainly setting in, given how long he'd been lying in the desert. Lily worked with shaking hands, doing her best to clean and bandage each injury. As she worked, she found herself talking to him quietly, though he showed no sign of hearing. "You're going to be okay," she said, trying to convince herself as much as him. "I don't know what happened to you or why you were left out there, but you're not alone anymore. I'm going to help you, I promise." It was a promise that could cost her everything, and deep down she knew it, but she'd already made her choice. Whatever the consequences, she would see this through. On the second day after bringing the warrior to the trading post, Lily heard the sound of approaching horses. Her heart seized with fear. If it was his people looking for him, they might think she'd harmed him. If it was settlers or soldiers, they'd demand she turn him over or worse. She quickly covered him with blankets in the back room where she'd been tending him, then stepped outside to face whoever was coming. It was a small wagon train, 3 families heading west who'd stopped for water and supplies. The leader, a weathered man named Jacob Fletcher, looked surprised to find a young girl running the place alone. Lily explained briefly about her parents' deaths, watching Fletcher's face cloud with concern. "That's a hard situation for a child," he said gruffly. "You ought to come with us, find family or at least civilization. This ain't no place for a girl alone." Lily politely declined, claiming she was managing and expecting relatives soon, a lie that came easier than she'd expected. As the families prepared to move on after filling their water barrels, Fletcher's teenage son came running from behind the trading post. "Pa," he called excitedly, "there's blood and drag marks in the sand, lots of them. And they lead right inside." The atmosphere changed instantly. Fletcher's hand moved to his rifle, and the other men gathered around, their faces hard and suspicious. "What's in there, girl?" Fletcher demanded. "You got someone hurt inside? Apache been here?" His eyes narrowed with sudden realization. Those drag marks coming from the direction of the spring. There was a skirmish 2 days back between Army Patrol and Apache raiders. "You got one of them inside, don't you?" Lily's mind raced. She could lie, but they'd search anyway. She could tell the truth and face their anger. In the end, honesty seemed less dangerous than being caught in deception. "Yes," she said quietly but firmly. "I found a wounded man by the spring. He was dying. I couldn't just leave him there." The words hung in the hot air like a challenge. Fletcher's face darkened with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "Girl, are you insane? That's Apache. His people could come looking for him, find him here and burn this place to the ground with you in it. And if the army finds out you're harboring one of them, you'll be charged with treason." Other voices joined his, a chorus of warnings and condemnations. But Lily stood her ground, her young face set with determination that surprised even herself. The argument raged for nearly an hour in the brutal midday sun. Fletcher and the other men demanded Lily let them take the wounded Apache to the nearest army outpost. She refused. They threatened to report her. She told them to go ahead. They warned her she was risking her life for someone who'd probably try to hurt her the moment he regained consciousness. Still, she refused to budge. "Why?" Fletcher finally asked, genuinely baffled. "Why would you risk everything for an enemy?" Lily thought about that question, about the real answer beneath the simple words. "Because he's not an enemy," she said quietly. "He's a person who was left to die alone. I know what alone feels like, Mr. Fletcher. I know what it's like when death is coming and there's no one who cares. I couldn't do that to someone else, no matter who they are or where they come from." Her words created an uncomfortable silence. Some of the women in the group looked moved, remembering perhaps their own losses and loneliness. But Fletcher shook his head grimly. "Your compassion's going to get you killed, girl. Mark my words." He gathered his people and the wagon train rolled on, leaving Lily standing in a cloud of dust, alone once again, but now with a secret that could indeed cost her life. She returned inside to check on her patient. His fever had worsened, and he tossed restlessly, muttering words in Apache she couldn't understand. Lily spent the rest of the day trying to cool him with wet cloths, forcing water between his cracked lips, and praying to a God she wasn't sure was listening that she hadn't made a terrible mistake. The sun set in brilliant oranges and reds across the desert, beautiful and indifferent to the small drama of survival playing out in the lonely trading post. That night, Lily slept in brief snatches, waking repeatedly to check on the warrior. Around midnight, his fever broke finally, sweat soaking through his makeshift bedding. His breathing steadied, becoming deeper and more regular. He was going to survive, at least through this crisis. Lily felt tears of relief and exhaustion streaming down her face as she realized her impossible effort had actually worked. She'd saved a life, though she had no idea yet what that salvation would ultimately mean for either of them. On the fourth day, the warrior's eyes opened with clear awareness for the first time. Lily was changing his bandages when she felt his gaze on her, sharp and alert despite his weakness. She froze, suddenly very aware that she was alone with someone who might see her as an enemy. They stared at each other across a gulf of culture, language, and fear, neither knowing what to expect from the other. "Water," he croaked in English, surprising her. His voice was rough from days of silence and fever, but the word was clear. Lily nodded quickly, relieved he understood her language, and brought a cup to his lips. He drank greedily, then fell back exhausted from even that small effort. "Thank you," he managed, his dark eyes never leaving her face, studying her with an intensity that made her nervous. Over the next few days, as his strength slowly returned, they began to communicate in fragmented conversations. His English was limited but functional, learned from a missionary who'd lived briefly among his people years ago. He told her his name was Silent Thunder, given because even as a child he'd moved without sound, a skill that had made him valuable as a scout and hunter. He was 19, younger than Lily had guessed. Though his face carried the weight of hard experience, Lily explained how she'd found him, about dragging him back to the trading post, about the wagon train and their warnings. Silent Thunder listened with growing amazement. "You saved enemy," he said, struggling with the words. "Why risk much? Your people would be angry." Lily shrugged, not sure how to explain something she didn't fully understand herself. "You needed help," she said simply. "That seemed more important than anything else." Silent Thunder was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Finally he spoke again, his voice carrying a weight that suggested he was sharing something significant. "My people left me," he said slowly, each word careful. "Wounded too bad. Couldn't travel. Would slow down group, put others in danger. Is our way. Leave fallen warrior to die with honor rather than endanger tribe." He paused, his eyes showing pain that had nothing to do with his physical wounds. "They left me to die alone. You, stranger, saved me when my own people could not." As Silent Thunder healed, a tentative friendship formed between the orphaned settler girl and the abandoned Apache warrior. Lily learned that his band had been fleeing an army patrol when he'd been wounded in the skirmish Fletcher had mentioned. The decision to leave him hadn't been made lightly or cruelly. It was survival. A hard choice in a hard land where one person's life couldn't be allowed to endanger many. But understanding the tradition didn't erase the hurt in Silent Thunder's eyes when he spoke of being left behind. Lily recognized that pain. It echoed her own feelings of abandonment after her parents' deaths, even though she knew rationally that illness wasn't a choice. Both of them had been left alone by circumstances beyond their control, and that shared experience created a bond that transcended their obvious differences. Silent Thunder began teaching Lily things that would help her survive in the desert. He showed her which plants were edible, how to find water sources she'd never noticed, how to read tracks and signs in the sand that told stories of animal movement and weather changes. "You live here," he said in his improving English, but you don't know here. I teach you. So desert becomes friend instead of enemy. Lily in turn helped him understand the settler world he'd mostly experienced as an adversary. She read to him from her few books, explaining customs and ways of thinking that were foreign to him. They were teaching each other not just survival skills, but something more valuable, seeing the humanity in people they'd been taught to fear. The trading post became a small island where two worlds met and discovered they weren't as different as both had believed. One evening, as the desert sunset painted everything in shades of gold and crimson, Silent Thunder asked Lily something that had clearly been troubling him. "When I am healed," he said slowly, "what then? I cannot stay. You cannot hide Apache warrior forever. But if I leave, you stay alone again." It was a question neither of them had wanted to face, but now it hung between them, demanding an answer that neither had. The answer to Silent Thunder's question came sooner than either expected, and in the worst possible way. 2 weeks after Lily had found him, a small army patrol arrived at the trading post. 4 soldiers led by a stern lieutenant named Crawford dismounted, their eyes scanning the property with the practiced wariness of men in hostile territory. Lily's heart hammered as she stepped outside to greet them, forcing a calm she didn't feel. Silent Thunder was hidden in a cleverly disguised root cellar her father had built beneath a trapdoor in the storage room, but if the soldiers decided to search thoroughly, they'd find him. "Afternoon, miss," Lieutenant Crawford said, though his tone wasn't friendly. "We're following up on reports from a wagon train that passed through here 2 weeks back. They mentioned you might be harboring an Apache warrior, so Fletcher had reported her after all." Lily felt betrayal mixing with her fear, but she kept her face neutral. "I don't know what they told you, Lieutenant, but I'm just a girl trying to survive out here. I wouldn't know what to do with an Apache warrior if I had one." The lie came more easily this time, smoothed by necessity and the stakes involved. Crawford's eyes narrowed. "That's so. Then you won't mind if we search the premises?" It wasn't a question. Lily's mind raced. She couldn't refuse without confirming their suspicions, but she couldn't let them search either. "Actually, I do mind," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "This is my property, and I don't appreciate being accused of crimes by strangers. If you have actual evidence of wrongdoing, present it. Otherwise, you have no legal right to search my home." The lieutenant looked surprised by her boldness, as did his men. For a tense moment, Lily thought he might order the search anyway. But Crawford was apparently enough of a by-the-book officer to recognize she was technically right. Without a warrant or clear evidence, forcing a search could cause him political problems if she complained to the right people. "This isn't over," he said coldly. "We'll be watching this place. If you're lying, girl, you'll face serious consequences." The patrol rode away, but Lily knew this was just a temporary reprieve. They'd be back, probably with proper authorization next time. When she released Silent Thunder from his hiding place, they both understood that their time was running out. A decision would have to be made soon, and it would change everything for both of them. The answer to Silent Thunder's question came sooner than either expected, and in the worst possible way. 2 weeks after Lily had found him, a small army patrol arrived at the trading post. 4 soldiers, led by a stern lieutenant named Crawford, dismounted, their eyes scanning the property with the practiced wariness of men in hostile territory. That night, Silent Thunder and Lily sat outside under a sky so full of stars, it looked like someone had spilled diamonds across black velvet. The desert night was cool after the day's heat, and somewhere in the darkness a coyote called to its pack. They'd been avoiding the inevitable conversation, but Crawford's visit had forced it to the surface. "I must leave," Silent Thunder said finally, his voice heavy with reluctance. "Army will return. If they find me, you will be punished. I cannot let you suffer for my life." Lily had known this was coming, but hearing the words still felt like a punch to her chest. Over the past weeks, Silent Thunder had become more than just someone she was helping. He'd become her friend, maybe the first real friend she'd had since her parents died. "Where will you go?" she asked quietly. "Your band left you. The army is hunting you. The desert is huge but not infinite." Silent Thunder was silent for a long time, staring at the stars as if they might hold answers. "I don't know," he admitted. "Maybe I try to find my people, explain that I lived. Maybe they take me back. Maybe they say I should have died with honor, that surviving was wrong. Our ways are not always easy to understand." Lily felt anger rising at the injustice of it all. "That's not right," she said fiercely. "You survived because you're strong and because someone helped you. There's no shame in that. There's no honor in dying when you could live." Silent Thunder looked at her with something like affection in his eyes. "You think like a warrior," he said softly. "But you have bigger heart than most warriors I know." They sat together until the moon rose, talking about possibilities and futures that seemed equally impossible. By the time they returned inside, no real decision had been made, but both felt the weight of time pressing down on them. Tomorrow would bring whatever it would bring, and they'd face it together for as long as they could. 3 days later, Lily was drawing water from the barrel when she heard something that made every hair on her body stand on end, the sound of many horses approaching from the desert. Her first thought was that the army had returned in force, but as the riders emerged from the heat shimmer, she realized with shock that these weren't soldiers. They were Apache warriors, at least 20 of them, riding in a tight formation that spoke of discipline and purpose. Silent Thunder emerged from the trading post, alerted by the sound, and froze when he saw the approaching riders. "My people," he whispered, his face a mixture of hope, fear, and uncertainty. Lily moved instinctively closer to him, a protective gesture that was probably foolish given the circumstances, but she couldn't help herself. They'd faced so much together. She wasn't going to abandon him now. The warriors stopped about 30 yards away, their horses stamping and snorting. From the center of the group, an older warrior rode forward, his bearing suggesting leadership and authority. His face was weathered like carved wood, his long hair streaked with gray, his eyes sharp and assessing as they took in the scene. Silent Thunder, alive and healing, standing beside a young white girl at a trading post. Silent Thunder stepped forward, speaking in rapid Apache that Lily couldn't follow. The older warrior, whom Lily guessed was probably the band's chief or war leader, listened without expression, then responded in the same language. The conversation went back and forth for several minutes, voices rising and falling with emotion, while Lily stood helplessly watching, understanding nothing but feeling the weight of every word. Finally, Silent Thunder turned to her, his face unreadable. "This is Greyhawk, leader of our band. He says they thought I was dead. When scouts reported seeing me alive at this trading post, they didn't believe it. They came to see if the reports were true." He paused, and Lily saw his throat work as he swallowed hard. "He wants to know why a white girl would save an Apache warrior left for dead. He wants to know if you are my captive, or if there is some trick he doesn't understand." Lily looked at the assembled warriors, at Greyhawk's stern, questioning face, and felt fear try to steal her voice. But she'd faced too much in her short life to crumble now. She'd lost her parents, survived alone in the desert, defied settlers and soldiers to save Silent Thunder's life. She could face this too. She stepped forward, her chin raised, looking Greyhawk directly in the eyes with a respect that didn't include submission. "Tell him," she said to Silent Thunder, "that I found him dying by the spring. Tell him I didn't know who he was or which band he belonged to. I only knew he was a person who needed help. Tell him I carried him back here because I couldn't leave someone to die alone in the desert, not when I had the power to try to save him." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "Tell him that your people did what they had to do, leaving you behind to protect the group. I understand that. But I was one person with no group to protect, and I could make a different choice." Silent Thunder translated, his voice carrying her words across the cultural divide. Greyhawk listened intently, his expression unchanging, but Lily thought she saw something shift in his eyes. When Silent Thunder finished, Greyhawk spoke again, a longer speech this time, his tone thoughtful rather than challenging. "He says," Silent Thunder translated, "that our people and yours have been at conflict for many seasons. Much blood has been spilled on both sides. Much grief and anger lives in both people's hearts. He says that in all this time, he has never heard of a white person risking themselves to save an Apache life when they had no reason to, when they could have easily walked away." Silent Thunder's voice grew thick with emotion. "He says that you showed greater courage than many warriors because you faced not just physical danger, but the judgment of your own people. He says he is honored to meet you." Lily felt tears prick her eyes at the unexpected recognition. Greyhawk dismounted and approached slowly, stopping a respectful distance away. He spoke again, and this time Lily heard what sounded almost like reverence in his tone. Silent Thunder translated, his own voice unsteady. He says that you gave his people back a warrior they had mourned as lost. He says that in his long life he has seen much bad between our peoples, but rarely something so purely good. He asks what they can do to honor your courage and kindness. Lily was overwhelmed by Greyhawk's words and the unexpected turn this encounter had taken. She'd expected anger, perhaps even retribution for interfering with Apache customs. Instead, she was being honored. "I don't need anything," she said honestly. "I just wanted to help. Seeing Silent Thunder alive and well is enough." But Greyhawk wasn't satisfied with that answer. Through Silent Thunder's translation, he explained that in Apache culture, a life debt was a serious matter. Silent Thunder owed Lily his life, and by extension, the entire band owed her for preserving one of their warriors. To leave such a debt unpaid would be dishonorable. He wanted to offer her something meaningful, something that recognized the magnitude of what she'd done. After discussion among the warriors, Greyhawk made an extraordinary proposal. The band would establish a formal trading relationship with Lily's post. They would bring goods, hides, crafted items, herbs and medicines, and trade fairly for supplies they needed. More importantly, they would spread word among other Apache bands that this place and this girl were under their protection. No Apache would threaten her or this trading post. It was an unprecedented guarantee of safety, in a territory where such promises were almost unheard of. But there was more. Greyhawk also offered Lily something she'd lost, family. He said that if she wished, she could be adopted into the band as Silent Thunder's sister, given an Apache name and welcomed among them. She could visit their camps, learn their ways, become part of their people, while still maintaining her trading post and her own identity. It was a bridge between two worlds, an offer that recognized both her courage and her choice to remain in the desert, rather than flee to safer, more settled areas. Lily was stunned, speechless. In trying to save one life, she'd somehow opened a door to a whole new existence, one where she'd no longer be alone, where she'd have the family and community she'd been desperately missing. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at Silent Thunder, who was smiling with joy and relief, then at Greyhawk, who watched her with grandfatherly warmth despite his stern features. The next weeks transformed Lily's life in ways she could never have imagined. The Apache band camped near the trading post, and Greyhawk personally oversaw the formal adoption ceremony that made Lily an honorary member of the band. She was given the name Desert Flower Who Blooms in True. Hardship, which Silent Thunder explained, reflected both her survival alone in harsh conditions and her choice to help him bloom back to life when he was dying. The trading relationship flourished immediately. Apache women taught Lily their methods of tanning hides, creating medicine from desert plants, and weaving baskets with intricate patterns. She taught them what she knew about preserving food using settler techniques and shared her precious books, reading aloud to fascinated listeners who'd never encountered written stories before. Silent Thunder served as translator, but increasingly Lily began learning Apache words and phrases, determined to communicate directly with her new family. The arrangement also brought unexpected benefits from the settler side. When word spread that the trading post had Apache protection and was facilitating peaceful trade, more travelers began stopping by, curious about the unique situation. Lily's business actually improved, as people came specifically to purchase Apache crafts and to witness this unusual example of peaceful coexistence. Not everyone approved. There were still plenty of settlers who viewed all Apache as enemies, but enough were intrigued or supportive to make a real difference. Silent Thunder, fully healed now, had been faced with his own choice. He could return to the warrior life he'd known, or he could stay at the trading post and help Lily manage this new bridge between peoples. After much thought and discussion with Greyhawk, he chose to stay. His role became that of permanent liaison between the band and the trading post, translator and protector for Lily, and living symbol of what was possible when people chose compassion over conflict. One evening, as they worked together organizing the newly expanded trading post, Silent Thunder spoke thoughtfully. "When my people left me to die, I thought my life was over. I was angry, hurt, feeling betrayed, even though I understood the necessity. But now I see differently." He looked around at the bustling post, at the blend of Apache and settler goods, at the unlikely community forming. Maybe I needed to be left behind so I could find a different path, a different purpose. Maybe my life was saved not just to continue as it was, but to become something new. 6 months after Lily had found Silent Thunder dying by the spring, the trading post had become something remarkable. A genuine meeting place where Apache and settlers could interact peacefully, trade fairly and slowly, carefully, begin to see past the stories they'd been told about each other. It wasn't always easy. There were incidents, misunderstandings, and moments when old prejudices flared up on both sides. But Lily and Silent Thunder stood at the center of it all, their unlikely friendship serving as proof that bridges could be built across even the widest cultural divides. Lieutenant Crawford returned one day, this time without hostility. He'd heard about the trading post's transformation and came to investigate personally. What he found surprised him: orderly trade, peaceful coexistence, and a young girl who'd somehow accomplished what the Army's years of conflict had failed to achieve, creating a space where two peoples could meet without violence. Crawford was practical enough to recognize value when he saw it, and he reported back to his superiors that the trading post was actually helping stabilize the region, rather than threatening it. Greyhawk's band became regular visitors, with some members even staying for extended periods to help with various projects. They built Lily a proper house to replace her crumbling quarters, constructed better water storage, and helped her expand the trading post to handle increased business. In return, Lily made sure they had fair access to goods they needed and served as their advocate with other settlers when possible. Silent Thunder taught Lily to ride Apache style, to track and hunt, to survive in the desert with nothing but knowledge and skill. She taught him to read and write English, to understand settler business practices, to navigate the complex world of contracts and agreements that governed trading. They became true partners, neither quite warrior nor quite settler, but something new, bridge builders in a land that desperately needed bridges. One star-filled night, as they sat outside watching the desert darkness come alive with nocturnal sounds, Lily reflected on the journey that had brought her here. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "when I found you dying by that spring, I thought I was just trying to save one life. I didn't realize I was saving my own too." Silent Thunder looked at her questioningly, and she continued, "I was dying out here alone, Silent Thunder. Maybe not physically, but inside. I was slowly giving up hope. Saving you gave me purpose again, gave me family, gave me a reason to keep fighting." Silent Thunder smiled, that rare, full smile that transformed his usually serious face. "Apache tradition said I should have died with honor," he said. "But a brave girl defied that tradition and showed me that sometimes survival is its own kind of honor. Sometimes the greatest courage is choosing life and connection over death and separation." He gestured at the trading post, at the blend of two worlds visible everywhere. "My people left me unknowingly to become something more than I was. You found me and gave me chance to help build something that might change future for both our peoples." As the moon rose over the Arizona desert, casting silver light across the endless expanse of sand and stone, the trading post stood as a testament to the power of compassion, the courage of defiance when defiance serves life, and the possibility of finding family in the most unexpected places. A wounded warrior had been left for dead, and an orphan girl had defied tribal tradition and settler prejudice to save him. In doing so, they'd both been saved, and a small but significant bridge had been built between two worlds that had known mainly conflict. It was a beginning, fragile but real, and it blazed like a desert flower blooming impossibly in the harshest conditions, a symbol of hope in a land that desperately needed it.